But you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning, folks. It is Friday, June 19th. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, and you guys can follow me on Twitter if you don't already, right there on the corner of the screen, at People's_Pundit. All right, I'm getting shorter every day, I think. Feels like. All right, Freewheeling Friday. Let's recap some economic data. Then I know you all want to talk about these polls. All right, and we will talk about them. I told when this election cycle started, I told everybody, I really just don't want to comment on every damn poll that comes out, right? Number one, I don't like it professionally. But number two, it's hard to comment on a pollster when you don't see their raw data. And in 2016, I want to talk about something because there's a reason why I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I'm pretty much just appalled by what I'm seeing. And I don't know where any of these other where are other public pollsters? Where are even private pollsters who do this for a living? Like I do for clients, but polls you never see. Where are they to talk about this stuff, to raise some of these flags? I don't understand why it's okay for Chris Steyerwalt at Fox News to smash and criticize the way that other people who are trying to evolve and better the industry. I don't understand why it's okay for him to criticize pollsters like us, but we all stand back and just take it when we see things that we see, like, for instance, in the Fox poll, which we'll talk about today. Like, I was going to just flatly ignore a lot of this stuff, and you guys know who I think. You know what I think. You don't dismiss polls. You don't dismiss any polls, even if their representation is completely wrong. You don't dismiss them because there's still something you can get out of them. But at the same time, sometimes they're just so bad. It's not even so bad. It's like you don't know how they could make an honest, that you don't know how they could release this kind of work. Like, if I conducted the Fox poll and I got the representations that I got, I would tell Fox News, I'm sorry, but we're not doing this poll. If I got to eat the cost, I'll eat the cost. Like we're for the sake of my reputation, I am not releasing a poll where half the independent, I don't want to get into that segment yet, but where half the independent vote damn near hasn't decided yet or is undecided. Oh, by the way, and Donald Trump is only winning 17%. Does anybody really believe Donald Trump's support among independents in this country is 17%? Or did they simply do something wrong? Or worse, is it intentional? Because there's some violations of like Sophology 101 in this poll. And I didn't want to do this year. I didn't want to do this, but I think Barnes was right when he said that there's Rich, you better, people have, talks, but you better just get over it. Your profession is not immune to the taint, the stank of this era. It's just not immune to it. And I'm sad to say, I don't even know what else I don't know what to say. I don't know how I could look at something like this and say like, oh, this was an honest mistake. It's not an honest mistake. It can't be. It can't be. And if show me the raw data, Fox. Show me the raw data. Show me the raw data. I have to see your raw data. I think I'm going to send an email after the show. I have to see the raw data. I want a CSV file of your responses. I want a CSV file. Complete with, since you poll with voter files, supposedly, complete with API IDs so I can cross-reference the entries in the voter database. That's how suspect I am of this poll. Now, they'll probably ignore me like Chris Steyerwalt did in 2016 when I bet him the decision desk and he didn't answer me. I said, you could have PPD. You could shut it down if you want because you guys hate us. You could take big data poll. If I'm wrong and you're right, and if you're right, and this is and the reason what prompted that at the time was North Carolina, his call in North Carolina, which was so wrong. And it was so wrong at the time. I mean, it was I'm like, sorry, guys, I'm a little bit today. I was like, listen, if you're right, I'll shut it all down. You'll never hear from me again. But if I'm right, you got to leave the decision desk because these are disgraceful. It's just not even, it's not defendable. It is indefensible. But I just ran it on almost 10 minutes about a segment we're going to get into more in a little bit. Today, I know everybody who is conservative and supports Trump is pissed about these Supreme Court decisions. I'm going to stay a little bit upbeat because I don't care who is president at the time. If the economy is going to come back the way it is coming back, I would be stoked if it was Barack Obama who was president, if it was Bernie Sanders who was president, if it was, really anybody. I would be thrilled to the nines that we're seeing what we're seeing. There is some disappointment, and we'll talk about that too, but we'll circle back to the polling in a little bit. We'll get into that much more in detail. And it won't even be, I'll do it in the next segment. But then also, too, it's Freewheeling Friday. So get your questions in. I'm sure a lot of them are about these polls that are coming out. I'll do my best to answer them. But, like I said, I never got into the unskew the poll thing in 2012. I get a lot of questions like, well, if it's D+8 or D+10, if we were to adjust that, what would the correct result be? That's not really how it works because each weighting variable is done individually. And I don't know what they did with the other weight variables. I don't know. They don't tell you. They sure as hell don't tell you, which is crazy at this point. And this is why I'm getting so suspect. You know what? I'm parking the economic data for a second. I'm sorry. I know I'm going off here, but after 2016, APOR, the American Association for Public Opinion Research, who typically, they don't like Rasmussen reports very much. They are, I would say it's accurate to describe them as left-leaning or most of them as left-leaning. But I really supported what they did after 2016. I even signed up on APOR and I'm not, like an APOR member, but I submitted to an initiative that's called the Transparency Initiative. All right, they abbreviated a lot, TI. I really supported this, and I thought every pollster who releases a public poll should absolutely submit to the basic requirements, disclosure requirements, standards of disclosure, which they used to have before 2016 as well. But after 2016, they had implemented something better. In my opinion, something better. It was called the Transparency Initiative, and you release checklists with every poll that explains where you collected where is your data sourced. So, for instance, if I was going to poll a voter file like Fox claims they do, what company are you getting that from? So other pollsters can look at it and other journalists can look it up. What voter file database are you getting your voter files from? And I'm not questioning whether they're getting them from a legitimate source. I'm simply, which one is, what is that? Where is that? And then, in this way, we can actually, verify whether that's true or not. Where are you getting your voter files from? How did you compute the sampling error? For each subgroup, it's not just enough to do what Fox does, and we'll show you, and others. It's not just Fox. It's a lot of big media. Public polls just decided they're not going to listen to the Transparency Initiative. Did you get an online sample? If so, where did you get them from? How much of the poll is online sample? How much is not? Much more detail than you just get in a paragraph that all of these big media public pollsters release under the header methodology. That is not good enough. And I strongly supported what APOR did. That puts me at odds with other, I would say, outsider pollsters like Rasmussen. That's their business model. So if you want to get a lot of that information, you have to subscribe. That's their business model. At least it's a decent reason for it. You can subscribe to them, and you can choose to believe whether believe them or not, or think they're doing a good or accurate job or not. That's on you. You pay for it, you get it. They're not pretending to be a news organization polling firm, like somebody who's been contracted and hired by a big media outlet. You owe more to us if you do that. You owe more to us, especially since you suck. You suck. Your national polling is frankly unbelievable, and your state level polling in 2016 was about as bad, in many states worse, than 2016. If Fox News was accurate, Joe Donnelly would still be the senator from Indiana right now. If CNN was accurate, Andrew Gillum would be the governor of Florida right now. And we saw the Biden plus 12 poll in Florida the other day. If you are a follower of mine and you follow my work, you know damn well nobody's going to win the state of Florida by 12 points. You should be embarrassed to release a poll like that. And you should be ashamed to release it without at least meeting the minimal disclosure standards in the Transparency Initiative outlined by APOR. I feel like the only way we're going to get the public trust back in this industry is sunshine, daylight, transparency. So I loved it when they did that. Spencer Kimball at Emerson Research, I'll tell you right now, a good guy. A good guy. If he's wrong, it's not because he's putting his thumb on the scale. It's because he was just wrong, or maybe something he did, his methodology is wrong. He likes to be so indifferent that he'll wait according to the exit polls of the election that just had passed. Now, I'd argue that an electorate will never look like the electorate, almost never will look like the electorate it looked like, 4 years before. So that you're setting yourself up for inherent failure if you do that. But he does it for the right reason. He doesn't want to say, well, I got this shadowy likely voter model. I'm making this crap up as I go along. It's D+8. And he wants to be consistent. Unlike some of these other ones who anyway, he signed on right away, and some others did. But for the most part, the big media favorite polls, They are among the least transparent. And if someone like me calls them up and says, give me your source data, I want your raw data, they just flatly won't, they won't answer. I'll do it. I'll do it as soon as I get off this show. I will send an email and ask them for their raw data. I will take it. I will upload it to the software we use, which is, talk about transparency. I'll tell you all. We use a software called MarketSite, which was bought by a company called Dynata, which is buying up damn near everything. Panel, it's smart. It's smart. Somebody, they have money, so they're cleaning it up. They're becoming the source for, if you don't have your own online panel or don't build your own online panel like we do often at Big Data Poll. If you don't build your online panel, you got to get them from somewhere. And we've worked with them. We have. So they've bought up those panel providers like Survey Sample International, Research Now, the Samplify tools. I mean, everybody in the industry knows what I'm talking about. And then they also bought up MarketSite, which people like me for a long time have been collecting our raw data and then using tools like MarketSite or Displayer to help us not commit human error when it comes to weighting. Although I'm old school and I like to freehand stuff. I still do. I like to check work. I am, and people who know, they'll tell you. Tim, he'll tell you, I am a freehander guy, even when it comes down to the election model. It'll take me a long time, but I get a pencil and a piece of paper, and I do that crap freehand. I always saw the beauty in math and art. Math is the true language of the universe. So I never wanted to lose the sharpness of those skills. And that's number one. And number two, I wanted to check the machines. I don't want my brain to get lazy, so I still freehand a lot. But we use tools like that. So we would collect the raw data and upload it to something like MarketSite. And the nature of polling is such that you could give a raw data set to 4 different pollsters and they will give you 4 different results. Well, in this raw data, I see Hillary +1 in North Carolina. I see Hillary +6. I see Hillary +4. I see Trump +4. And that's exactly what the exercise found when I believe it was Nate Cohen at the New York Times tried to prove that point and explain that to people. You could give the same raw data set to the same pollster, get 4 different results. Don't you find it a little bit funny that 3 out of the 4 of those results went in the wrong direction? Tilted favorably towards Hillary Clinton. Trump ended up winning that state. Again, we see this again. We're back now with North Carolina doing the same thing, acting as if those Democrats in the rural areas are going to continue to vote Democrat without losing huge percentages of their base, which they do. That's how North Carolina was a red state for a long time. Republicans never had a registration edge. It's gotten smaller for Democrats over the years, but it still remains the way it is. I mean, the fundamentals of the way it works over there. I mean, the state has no doubt changed, but it doesn't justify what we see over there in some of these polls. So it's hard really to comment fully on the result of a poll unless I have that raw data. I'll ask for it. We'll see. I doubt I will get it. I strongly doubt I will. In fact, in addition to Fox, I'll hit up the 2 firms that jointly conducted it together. Let's see if they are allowed to, because it's not their product. Once a pollster does a poll for a client, that is their product. It belongs to the client. So it belongs to Fox News. They would have to okay that. But I want to look at it. That's sadly where I am. All I can do is open it up and show you some of the things that jumped out at me that I thought were frankly insane. Insane. All right. But with 10 minutes left in the segment, because it is Freewheeling Friday, and we're going to pretty much crack through this as much as possible. Let's start off with the manufacturing survey real quick, and then we'll talk about the jobless claims because we weren't there yesterday. There is some issues I see in the jobless claims that I want to talk about, because I did get a lot of questions on it yesterday, asking me what I thought, to people who noticed what I'm about to talk about, what would, what would account for this? And I broke it down to 3 different things that I believe account for the lag in the jobless claims for recovery, as opposed to some of the other stuff that we have seen, because the Manufacturing Business Outlook Survey rebounds strongly in June. The Philadelphia Fed Manufacturing Survey was expected to rise, but remain in contraction. This is the second regional manufacturing survey at a different Federal Reserve banks around the country. The first is the Empire State Manufacturing Survey, which we went over, I believe, on Wednesday. Maybe it was Monday, but if it's not, it was Wednesday. And the current index basically was just about even. It was 0.2 of a percentage point still in contraction, but it wasn't expected to jump that much, indicating that this one lags a little bit. So indicating that we're strongly headed in the right direction. If it wasn't for Cuomo, it would probably be positive already. But his public policy malpractice has done what it's intended to do, which is slow up the recovery. I mean, let's be real here, folks. I'm not playing these games anymore. Of course, that's what he's trying to do. All right. So anyway, this is the second one that's released. And this one was it was a bigger stunner. This one tends to be more volatile. And when we were talking about overheating on Wednesday or Monday, whichever one it was, I think it was Wednesday, when we were talking about overheating, this really shows a large degree of overheating. And not now, but when under the Trump boom, the economy that was booming, it was overheating to the point of people looking at it and saying, you know what, we cannot sustain this kind of factory growth in this region. So let's hope it pulls back a little bit. This is what happens is, new orders, which are subcomponents, sub-indexes of these surveys, they start to really outpace. Sometimes the firms can't keep up, and it could lead to, adverse impacts. All right, but the Philadelphia Federal Reserve's Manufacturing Business Outlook Survey unexpectedly rebounded strongly in June, far off the low in April. The diffusion index for current general activity soared from negative 43.1 to 27.5, the first positive reading since February. And I'm going to pull the other chart up in a second here that zooms in. But most manufacturing firms believe they are seeing light at the end of the tunnel, the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia reported. 46% of manufacturing firms reported increases this month, up from just 15% last month. Meanwhile, 19% reported decreases, down from 58%. Forecasts for this survey, folks, range from a low of negative 35, to a high of negative 18. Nobody expected this index to come in positive and this strong. That's a strong reading. It's not just it's positive. That is a nice, solid reading. The consensus forecast was negative 22.7. Okay. So I'd rather bring up, instead of zooming in on this, chart that's on the thing, I'm going to pull up the chart that I actually, here it is. So here's the Manufacturing Business Outlook Survey. The solid gold is the general diffusion index, the headline index. That's clearly a V. New orders in blue, clearly a V. Even stronger. It's a stronger V. I mean, certain things are going to lag here. Shipment, deliveries. There are different subcomponents. We show all of the different components in this index. But that solid gold is the headline general diffusion index, for the diffusion index for general activity and business conditions. That's strong. Look at it pre-February. It's almost to the high of the year. It's actually at higher levels than it was in July of 2019. It's a solid reading. So that leaves us, though, with some of the other news, which was, and instead of just pulling it up, the employment, actually, you know what I do, because I want to show you the trend. The employment numbers from the initial jobless claims from the Labor Department that we go over every Thursday. And we will return soon. Just got some new picks today. We're almost there. And then we can go back to a daily thing. But I got to keep my eyes, man, on things right now. And I got to make sure things close out good. But we saw a nice pop out of these initial jobless claims. And then we saw what essentially was a slowdown. So initial jobless claims come in at 1.5 million for the week ending June 13th. Insured unemployment declines. Jobless claims slightly missed the forecast, but they continue to trend down for the 11th straight week. Let's look at the 1 year, and then you'll see what I'm talking about. It went up, and then it started to taper off a little bit. I'll go back to it in a second, and we'll read through the actual claims data, but I want to show you the same thing with the insured unemployment rate. Now, the reason why the headline still says it fell is because it was initially reported for the prior week for, I believe it was May 30th. It was initially reported at 4.4. It held at 14.4. It was a revised down. So the good news is we're getting positive revisions, but we're not seeing it we saw a quick snapback, which you can see here, an inverted V. And that's what you should be looking for, but it's not as deep as we want it. All right. And I'll explain what I believe is going on here, right? The U.S. Labor Department reported initial jobless claims came in more than expected at 1.5 million for the week ending June 13th, obviously due to coronavirus mitigation efforts. But that's a decrease for the 11th straight week and a decrease of 58,000 from the previous weeks upwardly. That's the one bad upward revision. Forecasts range from a low of 1.1 million. We were looking for a better number than this, to a high of 1.6 and change. The consensus was 1.22. So it missed. The 4-week moving average was 1.7, roughly, almost 1.8, which is a decline of 234,000 from the previous week's upwardly revised average of 2 million. All right, so we're coming up hard on the end of the segment already. So coming up quick on it. All right. So let me just get into what I think is important here. So after this came out, people came, right away, what's going on? Well, what is causing this? There's a few things that I think can be explained here. One, we saw this big pop back, this big snap back, and the jobs report was huge, the largest ever monthly gain in history. But it's not leading to a deep V, inverted V, with these unemployment numbers. One, we saw states, a cluster of states, enter phase one and reopen, or some that didn't really shut down completely, come back in full force, and that influenced the numbers. And we know this because they give us state by state data, so we can see what states are still causing the problem, and I'll show them to you. Then we hit a wall because, number one, it's the nature of how you have to phase in 3 phases to reopen. So if a state did shut down, it's not like they can do this all at once. They need to spend a certain amount of a certain period of time being able to justify declining deaths, declining hospitalizations, et cetera, et cetera. Infection rates, which are more important than the actual number of people who were tested positive. It doesn't matter if more people are testing positive. That's irrelevant. Hospitalizations and deaths matter. The entire point of shutting down the economy was never, despite the moving of the goalpost, it was never intended to stop the spread. Something only arrogant human beings would think they could do. The height of hubris, people. You cannot stop the earth from changing its climate, no matter what the hell you do. And you cannot stop the spread of an infection you do not have an outright cure for. And it is a virus. There is never a cure for a virus. There are vaccines, There are treatments. As long as hospitalizations are not exploding and more testing is being conducted, you're going to get more positive results. But the point of the shutdown was to make sure we didn't overburden our healthcare system. Collapse it. Remember? It was to slow the spread of the coronavirus. It was never to stop it. And that's the goalpost we're seeing being moved day after day. It has been already. And they just continue on as if like everybody bought that crap. All right. And also, that's so number one is the states. There was a jump in states that reopened. Then it hit a wall. People and then other states that were expected to be reopened, they extended their lockdowns. I mean, Seattle has an autonomous zone in it, but they just extended their lockdown. I know, it's unbelievable. I don't even know. What do they call that autonomous zone now? I don't even know. I mean, it's different every day. The damn place has a different name every day. But that's the kind of stupidity we're dealing with here. That we have protests still active, still in force all over the country, and yet we have these lockdowns that are being extended and decreasing economic activity. That's number one. Number two, flatly, was that provision I told you guys was going to happen. If you gave people the opportunity to sit on their butt longer, unfortunately, those are public policies that appeal to the worst elements of human nature, one being laziness. Be honest. How many people do you know could have returned to work by now but didn't because they got unemployment benefits and decided they're just going to take that as a break for right now? Be honest. I know several people who could go back to work but aren't. I know some that are making more in Jersey on unemployment benefits. So they're not returning to work. They're going to wait until they're exhausted. That was a stupid policy. And all of the cheerleaders for the president at the time, oh, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. You know what? That's the price of sausage making. That's the price of sausage making when the Senate hatches out a bill. Well, the price is human suffering and high prolonged unemployment. That's the price. Now, it will run out in a little bit over a month, and people will have to get back to work. Or at least some people, if they want to, keep the roof over their head, they'll have to get back to work. And then the third is that this is just the nature of, which is why I oppose the lockdown to begin with. This is the nature of a policy like we saw. You cannot cut supply lines for businesses like we saw. You cannot artificially cut them, turn them off, keep them off for a prolonged period of time, and then turn them back on and not expect to leave people behind. Not expect chronic unemployment. Of course you would. That was just going to happen. I'm in a state that opened up as quick as, many of these bigger states did. I'm in Florida. They're trying to get back to normal, but my hair cutter, my salon they didn't bring all of their hair cutters back. Some of them can't even come back. They can't find people to watch their children anymore. They're afraid to come into contact with people. My dry cleaner did not bring everybody back. There's no point. Can only have one or two people in the lobby at a time. Restaurants, damn sure didn't. Leisure and hospitality in general was uniquely vulnerable to this situation. So of course that is what I find You know, when people came to me yesterday and said, what do you attribute to this? Those three things. One, we had that big pop because we saw a lot of states at once, or not a lot, but a chunk of states exit the lockdown, and then others resisted. They stopped. They stopped the momentum on purpose. Many of them. Come on, let's get real. On purpose. They took Furman at his word. They were like, oh my God, the American economy is going to come back before November. Kill it. Kill it. Right? Of course. A lot of that was on purpose. And then the second, the second reason was the provision in the CARES Act that extended unemployment benefits longer, and not in every state, by the way. So I see a lot of conservatives incorrectly pointing that out. It is not every state where people can collect more making on unemployment than they can going back to work. That's not true. But there are several states with a very large number of people in them, high population density. And then the third, of course, is the nature of the idea to cut the nature of the lockdown itself. You simply cannot turn supply lines on and off. Cannot turn demand on and off. That's not how it works. And as long as these social distancing guidelines are in practice, there are going to be some people that aren't going to get called back to work. My neighbor's not been called back to work yet. And she was considered a non-essential healthcare worker. I mean, it's just the nature of these things. All right, so that's what I attributed to. The good news, well, which is bad news for people who want to sit down and collect unemployment for the rest of for the rest of their life. The bad news is those people are not going to be able to, collect it in after a month or so, or month and a half about. And we'll see what happens when that time comes. If some of these liberal governors continue to do what they are doing, which is unjustifiably putting this lockdown, these openings off, then they could do more to hurt people. I mean, it's that, it really is that simple. All right, Madam Producer, in case we get interrupted, I know I'm over on my little segment here. In case we get interrupted, let's start collecting questions now, because if we get interrupted, then unfortunately, then we may miss out. All right, let's say somebody calls at like 11:45. I got to take it and cut it short. All right. So let's do a little break here, and then we'll get into the polling. All right. It is already 11:38. Just turned 10:38. Whoa, already. On Friday, June 19th, right? June 19th? Yep, June 19th. All right, you're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Thanks. Thanks for joining us. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. You guys can follow me right there on Twitter. If you don't already, do not forget to like the page on Facebook if you use Facebook. Do not forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, which I wish everybody on Periscope would just go do. And not just because we want the subscribers, but because it's just better. I mean, I know it's a little bit less convenient if you're a Twitter user, but it's a better stream. Mosey on over. No, just tap it on the timeline. It'll expand and open up and play there. All right. Just like Periscope. All right. So, and then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the little notification bell. That'll alert you right before we go live, so you don't miss anything of the show in the opening. All right. And then, of course, the best way to support the show is to subscribe to the best data journalism website on the internet, peoplespunditdaily.com. You can do that by going to pbdnews.us/subscribe. pbdnews.us/subscribe. That is obviously, we love you for it. Obviously, since we started this show, we do see an increase in that. And I want to thank all of you who have done that. That's great. Because it is Freewheeling Friday, I'm thinking I'm just going to pop like a couple little videos to laugh at people. Viewer discretion is advised. What do you call it, Madam Producer? Bad language warning. All right. I just want to laugh at a couple people. Bad language warning. this this is not going to go away for a while. It's not. And this is this is the definition of a useful idiot. This is like you work toward a society, the cancel culture, and then you get it and you don't like it. And it's like stuns me how some of these people don't realize you got what you asked for, buddy. You got what you asked for. I got this from last time, but we remember what happened with the show and I couldn't. Look at Michael Rappaport. He's an actor. He hates drugs. He's always cursing. He's got a filthy mouth. So I'm just warning you right now. Bad language. But when they start, when they canceled Gone with the Wind, this guy went off his rocker. Okay. And it's like, well, dude, what did you expect? What did you expect? So it's Freewheeling Friday. Let's just laugh at a few people, shall we?
Of slavery. The last thing anybody's going to do is watch Gone with the Wind for a history lesson. I don't like the film. I think it's overrated. But what the fuck is going on? We canceled the TV show Cops. Bad boys. What the fuck you going to do? What you going to do when they come for you? They canceled Live PD. They canceled the show Paw Patrol, an animated kids show. Are we canceling everything that has to do with police officers? Should we cancel the TV show The Shield? Should we get rid of the TV show The Shield that had crooked cops? NYPD Blue. I was in NYPD Blue. Sipowicz, Dennis Franz, he smacked my character around. My character deserved it. Should we never be able to watch that? The Wire had fucked up cops in it. We should get rid of that also. Hip-hop. There's so much misogyny in hip-hop, and I fucking love hip-hop, but we have to get rid of everything from the past that depicted anything bad. The movie Copland. I was in Copland. I say right now, Sacrificial Lamb, we need to get rid of the movie Copland. It should never be seen ever again. It had crooked cops. We should fucking remove that. I was in Friends. I was Gary the cop. My character, 4 episodes of Friends. I don't know if he was a shitty cop or not, but I know at the end of the episode, my 4th episode, I was in bed with Phoebe Buffet, played by Lisa Kudrow. I shot a bird. I should be held accountable. We should never be able to see that episode again. What the fuck is going on? You canceled Gone with the Wind. They want to cancel Blazing Saddles. Let's get rid of fucking Schindler's List. I don't like it. I find it offensive. Star Wars. Who's to fucking say that those rocket ships in space are depicted accurately and fairly? I mean, cut the fucking bullshit. Cut the fucking bullshit with this nonsense. You want to fucking cancel everything? You canceled Gone with the Wind? Let's fucking move forward. Let's get rid of all of it. Fuck art. Fuck music. Fuck books. Let's get rid of all of it ASAP.
Superboy is mad, folks. Superboy is mad. Yeah, cancel Syrup. I think Aunt Jemima is out of there, isn't she? That's a damn shame. Angel, I had an affinity. I had a strong affinity to Aunt Jemima. We were tight when I was a kid, and my grandmother brought me those pancakes. All right? This is ridiculous. But the point, you made it, man. You made it. Don't get mad now. Don't get mad now because you don't know your history. The idiots who help them are always the first ones to be eradicated. Up against the wall. How did they make it? I have to give this person credit. So hopefully I can get this up. Yeah.
I take responsibility. I take responsibility.
I take responsibility.
For being a white savior.
For attention-seeking behavior.
For performative activism.
For thinking that other people give a shit about my experience in a time like this.
For putting my hand on my heart to feign sincerity.
For waiting until the hard part is over and then posting an opportunistic video.
For not really knowing who this video is for. I think it's for me, I'm not sure.
I'm praying. I learned this move in acting school.
For the sad piano music and the black and white. It's such a cliche.
I take responsibility for not learning my lines. I probably should have done that if I really cared.
For enunciating strongly to show how angry I am.
For my complete lack of self-awareness.
For thinking that a video on Twitter would fix racism.
I am not reading this off a screen. I'm still relevant.
That's what they do. I mean, they're actors. They lie for a living. They pretend to be somebody else for a living. Who the hell cares what they think? Who cares? Honestly. And I tell young people, once upon a time, ball players, athletes of all stripes, of all sports, once upon a time, even actors, yes. These are not people to look up to. They're clueless. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. And then they get mad when it comes for them. When the monster they created comes for them. That's a demon of your own design, folks. Exercise it. Live with it. That's it. Because it's coming for you too. All right. Let's get into, I'm trying to give you a lot of time for questions here. And I got some really good ones. There are some other things I want to get into, but let's leave that till the end. Let's just break segment here and get into some of the polling. Okay. Let's actually not sum up. We're going to talk about Fox because that is the one that I find to be at this point one of the least believable polls out there right now. Look, if he wasn't so cocky or arrogant or condescending, maybe I would just say, the hell with it and move on. But if I got a message today from a reporter who, not all of them are bad folks, who I speak with quite a bit about polling. So anytime he sees something, he's going to do a story on it. That, he'll call and I'll ask my take about how to phrase something correctly for the article. It's really quite refreshing. And he works for a left-wing outlet. And he said, if there's ever going to be a show where you're going to put up someone else's poll and talk about it, this should really be this one because not even we believe this. Okay. And I'm stunned, why? I mean, because Joe Biden immediately took this poll and started fundraising with it. He immediately took this poll, started fundraising. You see the Fox poll? It's the Fox poll. Even Fox News says I'm up by double digits. Give us money. Right? Just dispel this myth that Fox is pro-Trump or even conservative. I don't care. I don't need a contributorship on Fox News so I could tell you the truth. I don't that's not my goal and aspiration like it is for every other Twitter pundit on, they're trying to get on somewhere, but, I would venture to say other people that you follow and listen to, their goal is to get on Fox and get a contributorship. I don't give a damn. I built my own operation and I'm not financially dependent on whether Fox feels like it wants to throw me a crumb. So I can tell you the truth. Liberating. Fox is a fake version of all right. Fox portrays itself. It wants to portray itself as the hallmark channel of cable network news, cable and network, really, because network news is a competitor of theirs, to be sure. They paint themselves. Roger Ailes was the genius of Roger Ailes was that he understood that every media outlet, big media outlet, did not represent the majority of Americans, not the way they view the world. And that's true even if, a Democrat wins the presidential election or anything, really. Win a national election. They have a good national. The truth is Democrats have never run as what they are. They have always run as, they've always hid to some degree their agenda. And with the help of the media handicap, which because you follow and watch me, what the media handicap is. With the help of that, they've essentially been able to hide a lot of stuff that they intend to do when voters go to the ballot box to make their decision. So Roger Ailes' genius was that he understood at least half, if not a majority, of Americans don't view the world the way they view the world. The way they deliver news doesn't really make sense to them. So we're going to come up with something that is more tailored to how they view the world, that comes from their point of view. That, first of all, Roger is gone. And so is Bill Shine. Hannity himself once said, if Bill Shine ever left Fox News, the Fox News that you know is gone. But to the basic point of it all, it never meant that Fox News really was that. Okay? What I'm saying is, just because they saw a niche, a market demand, doesn't mean they were really ever telling you the truth. Alison Camerata was the host of Fox and Friends for years. She was on Fox News for years. Megyn Kelly pretended to be a conservative voice for years. Alison Camerata pretended to be the girl next door for years. I know many other anchors and Fox News personalities who pretend they are pro-Trump, who pretend even that they are pro-conservative. They are not. The Bush wing of the Republican Party was never conservative. It never was conservative like Republican-based voters are conservative. Fox News became a tool for the Bush wing of the party, the establishment wing of the party, to manipulate the Republican voter base so that you would never pick somebody like Donald Trump to be your nominee. They failed in 2016. But they portray themselves to be the hallmark version of cable news, and it's a lie. It's an outright lie. Not only in the views they hold, but in some of the things that go on there. I know too many women. I know too many women who worked at Fox News and told me too many stories to really, I would have to see something change radically. Instead, I don't. I see it getting worse. I see the way they lie and manipulate their viewership. That's just getting worse. Did Fox News or did Fox News not entertain and cover the Russian collusion hoax just as the mainstream media did? Everyone knew that was fake. Let me just let you all in on a little secret. They didn't believe that crap. They were lying to you. They hated Trump. They hate Trump just as much as a lot of other people at CNN hate Donald Trump. They were absolutely all in on getting rid of the House and even the Senate. The plan was the Senate. And then having Mueller give them those 10 points to be able to have him removed. Who called the election in the House of Representatives on Election Day 2018? Who called the election when voters still had 3.5 hours to vote in the state of California, where there were many races that were still up for grabs? Who did that? By the way, that night, I got sidelined. Supposed to talk about the governor race in Florida. Why? Because, it wasn't, not just, it was the whole group. It wasn't going to be the segment they wanted it to be. So that was the end of that. All right. And that's not even why. Look, I don't give a damn whether or not they call or not. And I don't care about that. I'm trying to explain to you, they may be worse than if you're a Republican or conservative voter, they may be worse because at least CNN is open about what they are. At least CNN doesn't lie to you. They're left wing. I mean, they do lie to you, but they don't make any bones about who they are and what they are. And MSNBC and even NBC damn sure doesn't do it. They're coming from a left viewpoint and they're honest about it, at least. They're open about it. Nobody says they're a conservative network. Fox claims that mantle and even gets that criticism. But they are full of crap. The DNC debate money means more to them than telling you the truth. The DNC debate money meant more to them than allowing voters to vote out west without thinking all was lost or all was not, without influencing the vote. The integrity of the election was not as important to Fox News as calling the race and getting back in the good graces of the corporate media apparatus. They wanted back in the big media hate machine. And they wanted the DNC debate money badly. So in my book, a deceiver is worse in my book than an outright enemy, if you want to call them that. They really are. So, but still, when it comes to my profession, I don't like to like I said, I would really need the raw data to criticize, but let's look at a few points, okay? First of all, let's look at the crosstabs here, and then we'll get into, do I have the right ones here? All right. That's the extremely interested one. We'll get into that in a second. If the presidential election were today, how would you vote if the candidates were Donald Trump, a Democrat, Joe Biden, Republican, Donald Trump, other, wouldn't vote, don't know? Which would you say you lean? If they say they don't know, they lean them. Total, Joe Biden, 50%. Donald Trump, 38%. Here you can even see Joe Biden carrying men by 3 points, women by 19, losing the white vote only by 7. This is what I want you to really focus on right here, okay? Donald Trump's getting about 6% of the black vote, 21% of the Hispanic vote, altogether non-white, 14%. Skip down to the middle row. Look at the middle row. Look at partisan affiliation. Donald Trump is only getting 3% of the Democratic Party, which I would find ludicrous based on not only what work we have done privately, but even other public polls. Bernie's voters are not en masse at this point anyway. They are not voting for Joe Biden. And I'm going to tell you why that is so low in a second. GOP, Donald Trump is losing more of the Republican vote to Joe Biden than Joe Biden is losing to Donald Trump, even though, and he's at 85% nationally, even though he has significantly outperformed in the primary vote share. Look at the independent number. 39% for Joe Biden, 17% for Donald Trump. Fox News wants you to believe Donald Trump's vote share among independents is 17%. I'm not kidding. Look, it's up there. I screenshotted this. That is the Fox poll. They also want you to believe that Biden is up by the exact same margin in the battleground states than he is nationally. Even though Donald Trump lost the popular vote by 3 points in 2016, yet won the Electoral College pretty handily, even though the margins in 3 states were very close. The actual vote total was pretty handle. And then in 2018, we got further confirmation of that disparity when Democrats won nearly a 10-point advantage nationwide, yet still lost the state of Florida, still lost Ohio. Indiana did not turn out how Fox News said it would turn out. Their national polling was, when it came to the House vote, Fox and others actually did a fairly decent job in the national polling, but their state polling was abysmal. Abysmal. Now, they also want you to think, if you look at the third column, they also want you to believe that Donald Trump is only winning 49% of the rural vote and Joe Biden is winning 40% of the rural vote. Even though Joe Biden only has 36% support among white voters with no college degree. Folks, that's right around where Hillary Clinton was. White college degree is damn near split. White with no degree, men. Donald Trump, 57. Joe Biden, 32. White college degree, men. Joe Biden, 43. Donald Trump, 51. White, no degree women, 38% Joe Biden, 49% Donald Trump. Evangelicals, 25% for Joe Biden, 66% for Donald Trump. Now that's, slightly better. What I'm saying is, who are they weighting towards? All right. Even the Republicans that they're finding. Is anybody seriously going to argue with me that Donald Trump is going to lose 40% of the rural vote? Is that a for real? Is that a for real argument? Are you being for real with me right now? Are you kidding? The poll is D plus 8. Just to let you guys know. All right. And I could screen it up here. But I'm not going to, because I don't want to slow the stream. I want you guys to see. Let's see exactly. Did I have it right up hand? The thing that was sent to me said D plus 8. And again, we have to talk about this difference between oversampling and overrepresentation. The bare minimum Fox News gives is really, it's just not enough to say, oh, okay, I understand that. That makes sense. These crosstabs can be created out of, whole cloth. Who the hell, doesn't really mean anything. Oversampled, though, means they took more samples of, but that doesn't mean that they overrepresented them. All right. That's not the same thing. And I know that this is what people keep saying, but the bottom line is they can oversample and still not skew the poll, to put it in lay terms. Okay. We oversample Hispanics all the time to get an accurate representation of vote preference or opinion, and period. And I use this example in the state of Florida all the time because it's easy to make sense. There are a lot of Hispanic diversities, a lot of Hispanic details. Just because we gather more responses from Hispanics does not mean we ultimately do not weight them down to the proper share of the electorate that they should be. Whatever it may be, 17%, whatever it may be. It doesn't mean they're overrepresented. So don't let people dupe you into using this term, because you will sound ignorant when you're talking to people who know these terms. Even so-called experts on TV use them all the time. They're wrong. There is no such thing as underpolling or overpolling. And oversampling does not mean the split is too big. Oversampling simply means you gathered more responses for a certain group because you're trying to get more accurate. You don't want your sampling error to be as large for a subgroup as it can be. And in the Fox poll, you can actually see that they do say, because they oversampled Black voters, their sampling error is less. I would argue that that's nonsense. That's crap. If you did not reach the right voters, if you simply oversampled one group of a demographic that tends to lean one way or the other, then it doesn't really matter. If you can oversample until the cows come home. So in the Fox poll, the sampling error is plus or minus 8.5%. For Hispanics. For Blacks, it's plus or minus 6% because they oversampled. All right. I don't understand that question. Yeah, that's where, okay. Well, that's a general idea. To answer the general question of how could it be ahead by 12 is obviously, clearly, this is just my opinion. Look at the independent vote. It's heavily tilted to Joe Biden. So what they did was the sample Democrats are they're represented too much, and liberals and moderates are too much of the independent vote. That would be my my guess. And not even guess. I would need to see the raw data to bear this out, which is what I was saying before. And I promise you, when I get off the show, I will request their raw data. I am not playing about that. But you can see it in white men, white college degree voters. Trump is still thumping him there. He hasn't made real inroads with the voters that he took from Barack Obama. What they're telling you is that they're going to be a lot less of the electorate, and that and that rural voters are going to break more evenly. A lot of those voters are in rural America. It doesn't make any sense. The independent vote is the jump out here. That is what tells you everything you need to know. And it's D+8. So I want to get back to that national voter file database analysis we ran earlier in the week and we covered on the show. It was on peoplespunditdaily.com. Go check it out if you want to see it in more detail. And not just the article, but if you go down to the end of the article, it's embedded as a PDF in the article. At the end, you can look at it in more detail. It is D+4 when we cast a very wide net of 188 million voters. Only 135 came out and voted on election day. It is D+4, 36, 32, 32. So by putting out a D+8 poll, what Fox is telling you is that more voters are going to vote. Is that Democrats are going to be more enthusiastic to vote than Republicans. That's what they're telling you. They're going to come out in greater numbers and represent a larger share of the electorate than they do out of the base sample, and Republicans are going to be least likely to vote. That is what it takes to come up with a poll like this. Or you simply are not gathering enough interviews from everyone, from a representative population. And that is Fox. They live call only to cell phones, which skew liberal heavily, and even landlines when you have situations that are going on now. The social desirability bias is real. And I'm going to tell you that it is real because, first of all, before I get into whether or not social desirability bias is real, let's look at Fox's own graphic. Biggest motivation in the vote for president. Fear other candidate will win. Joe Biden supporters, 63%. Donald Trump supporters, 33%. Enthusiasm for candidate, Joe Biden, 31%. Donald Trump is double the enthusiasm for candidate than Joe Biden. Double. Do you expect that to translate into a lopsided turnout advantage for Democrats? This is the reverse of the way it was in 2020. A reverse of the way it was. And Republicans thought because, Mitt Romney maybe wasn't a great candidate, he didn't inspire people, that he would still get people out because hate was a big enough motivator. That did not happen. Irish Girl, the Fox poll is conducted under the joint direction of Beacon Research, formerly known as Anderson Robinson Research, and Shaw and Company. Shaw and Company is a Republican, supposedly, but in truth, they are a establishment DC Republican kind of firm, even though it is, how could I put this? They're not based there. Beacon Research is a Democratic polling firm, previously known as Anderson Robbins, now run by somebody who is essentially an activist. I like the idea of conducting joint polls, and I would do it with a Democratic pollster that I trusted or that I thought had good faith. I like the idea. I like the concept. But the problem is you have a liberal polling firm and then you have a liberal Republican polling firm. It's not like it's the usual crap. It's the usual two standard you see in the justice system, that you see in media reporting. It is now bled into the polling industry. If they were truly trying to be a joint operation, they would have hired either Rasmussen Reports or Patrick at Trafalgar, that would have been a truly joint effort. This is not. This is, I hate Donald Trump's guts, and I hate Donald Trump's guts more. Oh, by the way, I think I pretend to be a Republican, but I represent less than 5% of the Republican voters. How do I know that? From his vote shares in the primary. They have outsized voices and outsized influence. People like the Lincoln Project and people like Karl Rove polling buddies. They do not represent the Republican voter. They do not represent the way the breakdown, the views of the base. Fox News was their arm to influence you to pick candidates that they wanted you to pick. The Mitt Romneys, the John McCains, the George Bushes. Right? And this last time around, it was the Jeb Bushes. And you didn't. But Fox polls, even in 2016, were telling you Donald Trump was the only candidate who couldn't beat Hillary Clinton. In 2018, they blew big races badly. Missouri, Indiana. I've been over it. I wrote a column for Rasmussen Reports in great detail. They just carry on like nothing's wrong. There is, I don't know another pollster who would look at these numbers right here. And then here's another version of it. Here's the extremely interested. I don't know another pollster who would look at these numbers and would say, you know what? That's going to translate into greater enthusiasm for Joe Biden. It's crazy. It's crazy. What I do see is an independent vote that's not really independent. So I said it on Monday or Wednesday, whenever we went over that voter, and now all these days are blending together, that it is difficult to justify anything more than D+4 at this point. Why? Because as you will see at the beginning of next week, when we release what is essentially a follow-up, when we do add either voter propensity scores or turnout probability modeling, Democrats' D+4 advantage that I showed you on with the national voter file shrinks. Depending on what scores we use, it shrinks badly. It can shrink anywhere from D+2 to R+1. And if the electorate is R+1, like it was for George W. Bush, when there was more Democrats than there are now, the Democrat advantage was bigger in registration, then the polls are going to be very, very, very wrong. That being said, I think Joe Biden is ahead right now. I do. Not only based on my own work. When we come back, I'm going to take a quick break because somebody said to me earlier on Twitter, what do you mean? How do you justify what, you saying Joe Biden is up? I'll tell you when I come back. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. Check out Bad Habit by the Grammy nominated band Bowen. And I'll be back. Give me 2 minutes, folks.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette.
take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, I'm back. Let's get to a few questions before I jump into what I was going to tell you. All right. But first and foremost, all right. Oh boy. Let's see. You know what? That is something for like an exit strategy, an exit question. Jeffrey, I'll answer that about polling firms, the question about polling firms after I'm done with this real quick. And then also Tall Boy, I can do this one really fast. Is Antifa formally now in the books considered a domestic terrorist group or not? Will uprisings be quelched in Portland and Seattle? Listen, they're trying to bait him with that and make him look like he's a tyrant if he sends in the military and all hell breaks loose, because it could end up like a Waco situation. They got him. He's just, there's like a no-win. This is a no-win situation for Donald Trump, because it goes, seeing this kind of chaos does strike him in the heart of his justification. Like we've spoken about, what is just a presidential justification, which the short definition is the why vote for me. Make America great again meant a lot of things, one of them being law and order. All right. But in general, to stop the managed decline of the country by global elites, our leadership that surrendered to that order and has been destroying everybody's lives and communities. That is Trump's justification. And all of those other issues just are part of that. Law and order, lawless immigration, changing the country without, ballot initiative, how my community looks, who lives here, and then also, of course, it's not just why, because of race, it's because of jobs. Jobs, trade, and immigration were always intertwined. In 2016, it was pretty clear from our polling that people believed immigration and trade were connected, and that immigration was viewed as an economic issue. They understood, especially working class voters, they understood that the illegal immigration, unfettered illegal immigration order was hurting them and their community and their wages and their ability to have careers, their jobs prospects, and ultimately for their families and their children, their ability to build wealth. They knew this. Working class voters are not the stupid voters, the stupid racist voters that the left and the media and everyone else tries to make them out to be. By the way, you'll notice that Donald Trump has barely lost any, even in that Fox poll. Joe Biden, like I told you when we went over Pennsylvania, is not going to make much ground with them if he does. If he wins, it'll be because he wins. The new voters that are in the suburbs, because the burb voter is not the burb voter of 2012, which I think I proved to you beyond a shadow of a doubt when we went over that in the census data. It'll be because of that, and it'll be because of white independents who sour on him. And that's the case. All right. And if it is because of turnout, which is what these polls want you to believe right now, I remain wholly unconvinced. All right. But why do I still think Trump is down? I just don't think he's down by that much. And somebody said, well, what evidence do you have to make this claim? Well, I will tell you, and the campaign's not going to dispute this. A little birdie told me Trump's own polling. And even in Trump's own, if you don't believe me, then believe Trump if you're a Trump supporter. In Trump's own polling, he is down. He is up a little bit in Ohio. Pennsylvania is a toss-up. He's down by like 6 points in Michigan. He's up a little bit in Florida. Texas and Georgia, not in play, but everything else is gone. He's down in Wisconsin. He's down in Minnesota. He doesn't have an electoral college win right now. That's the truth. And I would love to show, I would love to show you something, but you're just going to have to take my word for it. And the lack of disputing will have to be proof enough for you. But that is where he is in his own polling. And this race will be closer than these polls suggest. This is crazy. What I see right now is textbook response bias. That's what I see. Textbook response bias. Republicans, they are afraid right now. I'm going to tell a story here. In 2016, when we were polling Florida, we were using online panel polling to try to reach some voters. There was 12% of the electorate, 8 to 12. It would vary depending on the sample size. That would tell us no to the question of, have you voted in any election in the U.S. held by federal government, state, local governments? I forgot exactly how the question was worded, but have you voted in the last 10 years in anything? And 8 to 12% said no, which, by the way, turnout increased from 2012, and especially in where it counted, and generally speaking. And that was roughly about 8% was, 8 to 12 was roughly right. And among those voters, Donald Trump was killing her. And we were looking at where these voters were coming from. And there were these just huge numbers in the rural areas, numbers that even strong Republican margins just never saw it before. So one of them was a little historic district in Florida, which isn't that far from us. And we would go there, and my wife and I love that stuff. So does my old man. And we would go there, walk around, look at the little stores and stuff. There were signs everywhere for Donald Trump. There was an open Trump fest out there. And there were people who were saying they just stopped voting many, many years ago because we wanted, I wanted to ask people. So, I'm a nosy person when it comes to public opinion. So I will get in my car. If I see results, then I'm thinking it can't be right. I will get in the car and try to get a feel for the area, the district, the neighborhood, the community, whatever. I think there's still a value in what Gallup used to do many years ago. I do. I mean, because polling is not an exact science. So basically, I want to, I try to get to know them. Anyway, it was an open love fest, and there were people who were saying, many years I have not voted because I just felt like nothing really would change. Nothing ever changed. So it didn't matter whether or not I voted or not. But Donald Trump gives me a little bit more hope because, as crass as he is, as unpolished as he is, as, blunt as he could be and inappropriate as he can be, he's his own man. The system did not bring this. He didn't come out of the system was the general idea. They didn't own him. He didn't need anything but support from his voters to get elected. So that maybe, even though they didn't really, many of them still didn't like him, but maybe he'll do what he said he would do, because unlike anybody else, he really was not tied. He owed nobody nothing. And that was the general idea. Yesterday, we went back out to this certain little area. They are so afraid they took their signs down. There is fear because a lot of them still aren't open until the weekend when bigger crowds come, There is a fear. It's real. Those signs are up, somebody might smash their windows. Those signs are up, somebody might, because a lot of stuff is outside, it's decorative. Somebody might destroy their scenery. Things that have been out there for years. Never have to worry about things like that. Everyone is afraid of open displays of support for Donald Trump. They're afraid of it. And there's a general sense eventually this crap could end up in rural America. And by crap, I mean lawless mobocracy. That's what I mean. It could eventually end up in rural America, and, out there, they may get more than they bargained for, but they don't want it. And I mean by that, I mean the mob may get more than they bargained for. But those people don't want that. They don't want to live with that crap. They just want to live and let live. But they're not at this point, without a shadow of a doubt. It was the first thing I said when we got there yesterday, right, Laura? I said, well, that answers our question. It was visible. It was clear. That's sad. It doesn't really matter who you support. That's sad to see that in America. That is not who we are. You are not supposed to fear violent action against you or any kind of retribution because of a point of view that you hold. But absolutely, that's real right now. And Fox is a live caller interview. Response bias is the worst in live caller interviews. The so-called gold standard is the most susceptible mode of data collection for when it comes to not only response, but also social desirability. Because there is another person on the other end. And I think it's pretty clear from what you see with the independent vote in the Trump poll, in the Fox poll, which, by the way, that image that I showed you, when I took that image from Fox, they actually named, I'm not kidding, they actually named the graphics that they're using for their articles as Biden poll 1, Biden poll 2. I'm not kidding. The images are named Biden something in the URL. Holy crap. Much of Fox's static media assets on their websites are not really named anything. They're just a series of numbers. It's just like a random media file. They actually titled their graphics Biden poll. And we say, well, because Biden's up. Even the graphics where it shows enthusiasm bad for him, they're just it's just Biden poll -1, Biden poll -2. The hell does that? But it tells you where they're coming from, doesn't it? That in and of itself is affirmation of some sort of desirability bias, of preference, cognitive bias of some sort. Multiple sorts, maybe. So without a doubt, it is true that live caller interviewing is the most susceptible to these forms of biases. And that is true even when we don't have a climate, an environment like we have now. And I see no other reason. It's not in the enthusiasm numbers. It's not in the likely voter. Those aren't even likely voters. So Fox can't even say, well, it's D+8 because, it's a likely voter model. Those are of registered voters. There's no likely voter model applied. The only other explanation is either response bias or Fox bias or both, or their firm's bias. S apostrophe. There's no other explanation. Because I'm telling you, I showed it to you earlier in the week. It's not my opinion what the electorate looks like or what the base is for the electorate. If they took if they went onto their database, like I show you in our database, and they went into their database nationally, choose every state, like it showed you in the query, the database query, where I showed you in the voter file analysis, and then they went to random sample like they claim in their methodology paragraph, maybe they drew 100,000 records and it was truly random, it would be representative of the overall database. The only other explanation for those representations is they did not reach a representative sample because of their collection mode, or that's that's part of it, and that could be due either to like some form of cognitive bias, whether it's social bias, and then of course inherent artifacts with the poll like response bias. That's it, folks. And I will, again, last thing with this Fox poll, unless you guys have a specific question that I'll answer, but last thing with this Fox poll before moving on, I promise you I will, after the show today, I will reach out and try to get that raw data, and we'll talk about it on Monday. If they give it to me, we'll talk about it on Monday. If they don't, I will tell you on Monday, they did not give it to me. All right. Also, too, I don't know this for sure yet, but since it's going to be made, if I do it, it will be made public anyway. So I may be able to bring you a few states, Arizona and Michigan, like on the show. And if we do, all right, if this does go through, well, I'll show you something really cool. We'll do it live on the show, and I'll show you where it's popping up on the map. So if we're doing like one state or another, you'll see it, like little dots, and we'll be able to hover over it. And it'll say, this is a man. He's 34 years old. He identifies as whatever, but the voter file says he's something else, maybe. It will be really cool. And we can look at something live. And I'll even talk to, sorry, producer obviously wants my attention. I'll even talk to like Market Site about maybe having the weight variables put in there, so when the top lines come in, they don't have to be adjusted and you could see it in real time. It would be really cool. And since the client wants to make it public anyway, then they have no problem with me doing it on the show. This is what this industry is going to take. This is what it's going to take for this industry to get their trust back. Sunlight, transparency, openness. This is what it's going to take. You owe us more than this, Fox. You owe the public more than this. Your record is too bad. It is too abysmal to put out a cute little PDF and pretend like you're explaining yourself. At least follow the transparency initiative laid out by APOR. At least everybody. I challenge everybody to do that. And it should come with a checklist. If you guys want to know what I'm talking about, go to Emerson College's polling page. They do it. So do we at Big Data Poll. If you see any of the press releases of Big Data Poll, it'll show you a write-up about the poll. And at the very bottom, you'll be able to download the crosstabs and you'll see something that says TI checklist or Transparency Initiative checklist. And that will detail things about the poll that every public pollster should show. At this point, there's no good reason not to. Look, it is okay. So let me answer this question. Is it if you're a Trump supporter, is it too early to be worried? Look, I would be worried if I was you, I would be worried. I mean, but it is early. It's very early. And in fact, as big as Joe Biden's leads are in some of these national polls and in some of these battleground states, Hillary Clinton had, if not the same size, in many cases, even bigger leads. And that's when I wrote that article, Why Donald Trump Can Still Win. Because at that time, first of all, our polling showed a close race still. Around this time, we were gearing up, getting ready to do it. It wasn't until after the 4th of July that we released the first 7-day rolling average. Or was it the first one might have been 3 or 5 day rolling average. because it's just the time. And then later in August, we were showing a very competitive race. Other people were not. They were showing it a Hillary blowout. And number one, I thought they were wrong. And number two, I was saying that I heard people like Dina Perino and others on Fox, on CNN, say there's never been a president behind this late in the game. There's never been a candidate behind this late in the game, whoever went on to win. That was never true. That was not true. And Labor Day, now that we're in the era we're in, Labor Day used to be the gold standard for that pivot. And then pollsters should turn to likely voters at that time. I'd argue there's absolutely no reason not to be polling likely voters right now. If you poll adults, it's worthless. If you poll registered voters, when you go to make that likely voter shift, you may have to play catch up, which is what ABC News and the Washington Post poll, which swung 12 points in a week, their tracking poll, that's what they basically kind of argued. That's BS, folks. They don't, public opinion does not shift that quickly. Not that dramatically, that quickly. Not without an event. And I mean a catastrophic event. It just doesn't work that way. I'm muting. It does not work that way. You have got to get your likely voter model down earlier. This way, when you see changes too, there could be, you'll understand whether or not that's like a significant or dramatic. It's just everyone's philosophy is different. That's mine personally. I would, if it was I was polling right now, there's no reason not to do likely voters. And I would probably, I would. That's what we do. I'd give both. Here's register voters. This is it. This is the net, the wide net, like we talk about during the voter analysis. But then really, here is the projected vote total. This should be your top line. This is the likely voter. That's what I would do if it was public or for clients at this point in the game. There is no point not to. We live in the age of information. So, all right, let me get into some other questions. All right, Tall Boy, is Antifa, formerly now in the books, considered a domestic group, terrorist group or not? Will the uprising be quelched? Did I answer only half of that before, I think, right? I would say there's a no-win situation here, and it does go to his justification, but they're also trying to bait him. But as far as Antifa goes, the State Department typically gives terrorist designations, right? So that's why they call it, when they release like a press release or something, and a new group is considered a terrorist now, put on a terrorist watch list or something, they call it a designation. And I don't think the State Department issued that yet. Now, the president can consider, and through DHS, they can consider that a terrorist organization, but it's not something that will have gone through the bureaucracy and will survive the next administration. So if Trump does not work with Pompeo to get the bureaucracy to designate Antifa a terror group, then if Joe Biden wins in November, he could make it a freaking civil rights group. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. And if you think that's not possible, look at how BLM rehabilitated their image. They were running around, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. They were rioting and looting. And now they're more liked than any politician in the country. And they got cowards like this caving.
I had a great meeting with our team today. Our players expressed their feelings as individuals and as team members. They helped me see through their eyes how the t-shirt affected their hearts. Once I learned how that network felt about Black Lives Matter, I was disgusted and knew it was completely unacceptable to me. I want to apologize to all members of our team, former players, and their families for the pain and discomfort that has been caused over the last 2 days. Black lives matter to me. Our players matter to me. These meetings with our team have been eye-opening and will result in positive changes for Oklahoma State football. I sincerely hope the Oklahoma State family, near and far, will accept my humble apology as we move forward.
You freaking coward. You chump. How could you lead that football team now? You just gave up. You just gave up your moral and actual authority over your players. You coward. You think he believes a word of that? This smear against One America News, it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. When I found out how that organization views Black Lives Matters, you mean like what they are? Not a civil rights organization. They are a Marxist cultural revolutionary group. They are not a civil rights organization. Do you think he really believes that? Where is the evidence, by the way? Has any of you out there, can you find it for me, where this new smear that One America News is like a Putin propaganda machine? Where the hell did this come from? I'm serious. Does anybody have, because I'm trying to find something. Did I miss something? Because as far as I know, all they do is not report it from a liberal point of view. I have not seen any evidence. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, let's look at Fly's question. What's behind Rush Limbaugh's landslide prediction? Wishful thinking or gaslighting? I think Rush is not, again, for all the things Rush Limbaugh is, I view him to be an honest guy, and he's giving his opinions that he does truly believe. It absolutely. Joe Biden now is in a lot, despite what the polls say, there's a lot of danger here for what's going on for Joe Biden. Because, like I told you before, he's not, even in the Fox poll, he's not really making ground with white working class voters that voted for him and Obama. So, like, they have voted for a ticket with Joe Biden's name in it in the past. You would think they would come back. They're not. They are not coming back. And yet, he's ahead in the polls. And he is because of white bourbonites. All right? That is what the polls suggest. And that is, I think, even to what the voter analysis that we run, that would suggest. Those are the ones who could swing. All right? Those are the ones we identified in 2018. Even though midterm elections are not good predictors, especially first-term incumbent midterm elections. They are never predictors of the presidential race to come. Almost never. Almost never. So it's not sound to say it. It's not saying it can, but it's a crapshoot. There's no strong relationship. But it wouldn't be because of them. And the problem Joe Biden has here, police, even though, the membership themselves, law enforcement themselves, have long been like a swing vote, their leadership still supports Democratic presidents. He's already lost one big backing, Joe Biden, and he's claiming to walk the line that he does not support the defund the police movement. He's trying to walk that line. He's trying not to be on the side of the rioters and the looters. They are essentially one group. I don't give a damn what everybody tries to sell you. I've been to these protests, both for BLM and Antifa. There is no real way to separate the agitators like they tell you. That's ridiculous. What's his name who got chased by the crowd the other day from Fox News? He's not the first one. If I didn't know and I was going to bring this up, I would have had the video uploaded to show you our footage of Phil Keating being chased up the road by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. They've been paired on the street for a little bit now. He couldn't even do his report. And he had to have bodyguards there. And the bodyguards were surrounding him. So nothing like this, Hey, Rich, is Rich going to be polling the battleground states soon? We'll just have to see about that. If I do, it'll be because somebody hires me. I'm probably not going to do it like that for PPD. Big Data Poll does the polling for the model. This year, last year I did it, guys. I'll be, for real with you. I did it as like basically a public service. This year is, is different. If you really want me to be on the level with you, that was a lot of money. Laura and I spent a lot of our own money to do that. And, this time around, though, I can tell you, though, we have spoke with some big alternative media outlets. And if we do it, it'll be because of them. And then also some state entities that want to do their own. So I'm not saying there won't be any. I just don't think it'll be like we did in 2016. At some point, I would do it. And I would love to do it, honestly. I would love to. I'm dying. I'm scratching. Believe me, I'm scratching. But, Laura, for those of you who don't know, Laura and I have been building a house now for like a year. It's almost done. And, family needed roots. So at least until that's done, which is in a few weeks, then no. If things look like I get settled and I think I can do it, and then I'll do it. But there are people who have come to me who have spoken with me, not from the campaigns, but if I do it, I'll do it for a media outlet. All right. And by the way, I will follow the APOR standards of disclosure for the Transparency Initiative. All right. So they could say what they want. But if we do, you will see the most transparent polling you have ever seen. Because, and this is what I tell these other outlets that come and ask me about this, you cannot simply look at this like, oh, I want to hire you, and then I want better, more accurate polling, and we'll go like poll for poll with them in a narrative war. I'm not interested in doing that. They're always going to have more money, number one. They're always going to have more money than you, or at least right now. That's stupid. I don't think I want to be a part of something like that. But I will be a part of something that is so transparent, so open, even whether it's, I'm not even talking about the accuracy. I'm talking about showing people a level of transparency and instilling a level of trust that they're obviously unwilling to do. They've never done before, that it would make the other competitors look suspect. Like, wait a minute. The pollster for so-and-so Times, look at what they do. How come CNN doesn't give us this information? How come Fox News does not give us this information? Well, I'm going to follow this poll because I know what they're doing. They're honest with me. And that's it. That's what I want. That's what I want to see for the polling industry. And in the future, like my ideal version of public polling in the United States of America would not be like a little bit closer to Europe, but joint ventures. And I don't mean liberal Republican firm and liberal Democrat firm. I mean a liberal Democratic firm and a conservative Republican firm, or whatever it is. I would love to see that everywhere with the kind of level of transparency like I was explaining to you guys before. I at least applaud what Nate Cohen at the New York Times tried to do in 2018. I at least applaud that. He was showing a lot more, but I don't know. There's still a lot better, like what Rand did in 2012, the Rand Corp, and that became the USC LA Times poll. Where's your CSV file? Why can't I click on your damn CSV file? Why can't I click on a link on your poll results and pull your CSV file of raw data? Why can't I do that? You should be able to do it. And even in 2016, we would have been even more transparent. We just didn't have the tech tools on the websites and stuff. But anybody who called and asked me for the responses, got them. Anybody who called and asked me for the historical track record, how many responses for this day, how many for that day, how was it weighted this day, how was it weighted that day, I gave them to them. Ironically, we offered them to so many people, folks, and I kid you not, when oh God forgive me, I think his name was Peter at the Epic Times, when they interviewed us, me. That was the first person who really took everything, because he wanted to do an in-depth review of our polling and how it's done. And he was like, would you mind sharing this with me? I'm like, dude, what do you want? Take it all. He was the first one to ever really take it. Here are the responses. Here are the results. Here's every state. Here's this state. Here's that state. It was unbelievable to me that he was the first one who actually did his homework. I always offered it, including to people you see writing at Town Hall, also on Fox News. None of them ever took it. It was unbelievable. And then he did. He's like, hey, we're doing an interview. We're doing an article on polling, and we'd like to interview you about what you do differently. And then Laura goes off on the handle as usual. Don't want to tell everybody you're sick. But the point is to be transparent. That is the only way this industry is going to win back their trust. In 2018, they did a little bit better on the national level, and they still blew the states. And they just carried on as if nobody was paying attention. It's surreal. I mean, to listen to Chris Steyerwalt talk about how accurate their polling firm is, and how high quality, gold standard their polling is at Fox is it's like a freaking episode of the Twilight Zone, man. It's like staring into a dolly, drunk. Can't make heads or tails of it. The hell are you talking about? What is Salvatore trying to say in this painting? That's the way I feel when I hear Chris talk about how good their polling is. What are you talking about, man? Joe Donnelly lost the state of Indiana. Josh Hawley spanked Claire McCaskill. What the hell are you talking about? And how come all of these errors go in one damn direction? That's another thing they don't tell you. General rule of thumb in the polling industry is that for every 20, 25 polls, depending on who you're talking, there's always an outlier. How come there aren't any outliers anymore? Statistically speaking, that's the rule. How come there are no outliers? I defend this industry for years, and I just can't. It's getting so damn hard to do it now. I can't do it. You look at a Fox poll, like something like that, and I want to go to Twitter and I want to say, guys, you know what? Don't be pissed because you're unhappy with the result. Never dismiss any polls. But I don't know how to do that. You know what, Trevor? Bang, great question. You know what? I was waiting for somebody to ask that, but when you go on these tangents, right? He should do this. The answer to the question relies on what Trump does. All right. I mean, no. I'll answer that in a second. Let me stick to Trevor's. No, I don't buy the story Donald Trump is trying to tank his own election. That's ridiculous. Donald Trump filed for re-election immediately after he won. He wants to win, just like he wanted to win the first time around. It's ridiculous. Anyway, Trevor Fernandez asks, does the DACA situation now help Trump by bringing back the trade, immigration, and economic security angle? Wow, Trevor. Maybe they should hire you. Forget about me, man. Maybe they should hire you. Hello. They have done everything to try to take away the conversation that got the man elected in the first place. And why would they do that, you ask? One, because people haven't changed their damn minds. That's number one. Number two, he delivered on a lot of this. You may not like that the wall is not done, but there is a lot more than the media gives them credit for completed. But forget about that. The people who really are swingy, I hate to tell people this because I know the Trump supporters love the wall, but the voters that he won and really need to keep care more about trade and the issue of immigration interacting with trade. And Trump's trade successes are monumental. They're historic compared next to somebody like Joe Biden, who even the Washington Post, when Obama put him in charge, he was the point man in U.S.-China relations, the way that he was the point man in U.S.-Ukraine relations. The Washington Post even said in their editorial when he got back that he gave away the goose, man, for nothing. That Joe Biden was weak when he went overseas. He thought he was going to come back and get heralded. Biden goes to China kind of thing. It was not. Even the Washington Post said, what the hell did you do over there? Well, I got my son an investment. That's what I got. That's right. The money. And this is the real issue. Look, you know what? It's 11:56. I don't have time to do it. Madam Producer, remind me that I would like to go back into our 2016 responses from places like Michigan and Pennsylvania. And I would like to pull the open-ended responses out to read some of them to people. Specifically, people who were in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin who called themselves either liberals or moderately liberal to moderate. And these are not Republican voters. They did not vote for Mitt Romney. They did not vote for John McCain. They didn't even vote for Hillary Clinton in the primary. They voted for Bernie Sanders, many of them, not all of them, but many of them. And then come election in November, they're telling us they're going to vote for Donald Trump. Why? Trade and immigration. Not immigration in the way the media frames it. Trade. Allowed, NAFTA, it's all connected. They opened up, they basically dismantled borders with these trade agreements. They made their lives worse. And instead of talking about the accomplishments that he has made, like Trevor's talking about right now, the answer, Trevor, to the question is that depends on what the Trump campaign does. Absolutely should go back to that and should say, look, the Bush wing of the Republican Party is still haunting us. And he's doing it in the form of Chief Justice John Roberts. The stupidity of the ruling class has not yet been defeated. Judges were huge in Iowa. Huge. Trump won Iowa by 10 points almost. Roughly 10 points. And he did so in large part because of trade, immigration, being the economic aspects of those, and judges. That's how he ran up those margins. That's how he flipped every single eastern county in the state of Iowa. Outside of Polk. I mean, it was a hell of a feat, and that's how he did it. All right, so that's it, Trevor. Like I said, maybe they should hire you, man, because the next two everybody thinks are likely to go are Breyer and Ginsburg. Not even Thomas. Of course, Scalia died, and it was unexpected. You never know with the Supreme Court. But Trump should say, I did a great, we've put these judges out there. The district courts of appeals, we flipped many of them, but the high court, you are not safe from judicial betrayal just yet. One more term, and we'll lock it in for a generation. That's his damn argument. All right. You want to get those evangelicals? You want to drive him back down to 18%? That's how you do it. All right. Damn, folks, hell of a freewheeling Friday, right? You know what? We'll be back on Monday. I will let you know what they say. I'm going to go ahead and just guess that they're going to tell me to go myself. That's what I'm going to, but I'll do it. And I promise you, I will. And let's see if they give me that and justify what they did. All right. But heck of a freewheeling Friday. Absolutely incredible. It was a good time today. Hope you come back on Monday. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, right there. Follow me on Twitter if you don't already. All right. I see a lot of new people join today. That's great to hear. And when we get back, we're almost there. When we get back in the swing of things, we'll really drive up the viewership, doing it every day, implementing all the new stuff we have. It'll be very cool. But yes, until then, it is Monday, 10 a.m., folks, Eastern Standard Time. Before you leave, don't forget to like the page, People's Pundit Daily on Facebook. Go do it right now. Go do it right now. Don't forget. We'll love you for it. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube, People's Pundit Daily's channel on YouTube. Hit that little notification bell. That's how you will let you know when we go live. All right. Because we slowed down in how many shows we're doing a week, we did kind of slow down and creeping up on those subscriptions. Let's beat it back out. Share it with friends and family. All right. And we'll hit that first milestone. All right. I'm kicking rocks, folks. I'm out. Oh, and the best way, of course, to support the show is to subscribe to the best data journalism website on the internet, pbdnews.us/subscribe. pbdnews.us/subscribe. Fathers, have a great Father's Day. Fathers are a huge deal in this country as a numbers guy. So are mothers, of course. But if you are a father, happy Father's Day to you. You are doing an absolutely... You cannot be replaced. You can't be replaced. Enjoy it, but be safe. And we will see you back here, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday. All the best, folks. I'm kicking rocks.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats is restless, wakes the neighbors up above.